Class. I am your host, Mr. Andre Clay. And on today's show, we shine a special spotlight on my old stomping ground of Aurora, Illinois, with the Aurora. Excuse me. Oh, my goodness. Excuse me, everybody. Welcome to the Reset podcast for the Black working class. I am your host, Mr. Andre Clay. And on today's show, we shine the spotlight on Aurora, Illinois by featuring the Aurora Grassroots Alliance upcoming educational listening session. Again, that's the Aurora Grassroots Alliance here in Aurora, Illinois on their upcoming educational listening session and recruitment initiative. Today's show will be a special call-in show, and that number for you will be 708-414-0819. Again, that's 708-414-0849. With that being said, let us begin. Now, today, my two guests are return guests on the Reset podcast. Both of them are well known in Aurora, Illinois, being deeply involved in the community, both being activists in their own rights. And today, they'd like to share an upcoming event that them, along with other organizations within the Aurora Grassroots Alliance, will be having. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Nicole and Brandy. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
All right.
Hey, everybody.
That's what's up. Again, today's show will be a special call-in show. If you have any questions at all for myself or for the guests, that number will be 708-414-0849. Again, that's 708-414-0849. With that being said, Nicole, Brandy, how you guys been?
I'm doing good.
Been doing good? All right. So you guys have an upcoming event in December regarding some educational sessions that you guys are planning on having in regards to getting the community more engaged, more involved with addressing the local officials and leaders. Could you guys, before we get started, starting with Nicole, why don't you reintroduce yourself to the public and let everybody know about your organization and what's been happening with you?
So my name is Nicole Mullins. I am part of the Aurora Grassroots Alliance, which is a collective of local community organizations who are trying to make change in the community in different ways. Each organization has a different mission, but we all come together for some commonalities, some common grievances, and some common goals. I'm also with Culture Stock, which is a local arts nonprofit, and our mission is to make the arts accessible to the community.
All right. And my man Brandy, reintroduce yourself to the public. Let them know what organization you're with and what's been happening with you.
Yo, assalamu alaikum. My name is Brandy Gilliam. I'm also with the Aurora Grassroots Alliance, and I'm also a member of the Pro Bum Society. And we try to help out in the community where we can, and we also try to help other grassroots organizations, stay focused.
All right. So this upcoming listening educational session that you guys have, one of you, if you will, please share with us why are you guys doing this? What's the purpose of this listening session that you have?
Nicole.
I'll let Brandy go.
All right. Well, we're doing our listening session because we want it to be transparent. And one of the goals also is to educate the community on how to properly contact their alderman or like the alderman's office or the mayor's office, because a lot of people have complaints that they have contacted aldermen or they try to contact aldermen and they get no response. And then up on the flip side of that, our listening session, we want it to be for the we want it to be by the people for the people, because when the city of Aurora had their listening sessions, they had five listening sessions throughout the city. But in order to gain access to these listening sessions, you have to submit a FOIA request to the city of Aurora. And that's not right. These sessions were held in public for the public, so the public should have access to these at all times. So like with our listening session, we want to educate the people on how to contact the city officials, but we also want this to be transparent. So our listening session will be online. It will be free, and like you won't have to for your request. You'll just go and click the link, and then like you can see it up on YouTube.
Okay, okay. Any guess as to why the past sessions were not made available to everyone?
Well, I didn't think about this, but me and Sadiq have been going to listening sessions since the 90s. And so all of those listening sessions, some of them might have been recorded, but we never thought to before you request them or like they should be available. And I think one of the main reasons that like you have to before you request it because the listening session is basically to grab data. So like investors can know it's safe to invest here up in Aurora. So like you grab data or like you play certain clips of what people have said about the police or what people have said about the um, city of Aurora, and like you show investors, and then they say, okay, it's not a war zone, and like we can invest our money here. And also some of the listening sessions, I don't want to say, well, I'll just go ahead and say they were kind of hot in nature, and some things were said towards the APD and also towards the mayor, and like the mayor addressed some of these issues that were brought up. So like I don't think the city of Aurora wants that image to be seen of what was actually said by people up in the community towards the mayor and also towards the city of Aurora.
Okay, well, what about you, Nicole? What are your thoughts about previous listening sessions that the city held?
So the only listening sessions that I've been present to were in the last year or so in the community. So I haven't been to all the ones that Brandy and Sadiq had been present for. But those listening sessions were created by the city and by the mayor's office under the impression that they were to listen to the community, hear the community, so that we can make changes in the community. And I feel like the two that were shared, because there were five, so the city came back and shared two videos with Brandy when you FOIA requested them. And then the three that they did not. Of the three, I know for sure one of them was very, it didn't make the city look very good. It didn't make the police department look very good. And I know in one in particular at one of the churches, Brandy had gotten up there and spoken, and at the end, Mayor Irvin basically responded to Brandy's speech, and his closing remarks were supposed to be about the listening session in general and to be kind of his final send-off, and it really was a defensive reaction to what Brandy had said much earlier in the listening session. So I have a feeling that if I had to guess, I would say the ones that they didn't want to share were either for that reason, it didn't make them look like they had control, and then maybe one of the other ones were thrown in, or two of the other ones were thrown in to not make it obvious that they were withholding just that one video. But
right.
it's a problem. Yeah, anybody could have gone to those listening sessions. They were open to the public, but how many people show up to these things? Especially in a pandemic. And so I feel like they should have been shared. The city shares everything else. They're constantly marketing and promoting everything else. Why not this? And I do believe it's because it does not shine a favorable light on the city or the police department.
I feel you. And I, I feel the same way. I think you're onto something when you suggest that. I know, Brandy, with you requesting copies of those of that footage. I know that you have been in correspondence with someone there. Could you talk a little bit about how you went about engaging the city to request the footage you were looking for?
Well, up on the city's website, there's a spot where you can go to get FOIA requests or to submit a FOIA request. So I submitted the FOIA request. We had a correspondence back and forth, but they sent me 2 videos out of the 5 videos. And then they said that the other 3 videos did not exist. But then I FOIA requested it again just to make sure, and they sent me the same 2 videos. And then also a friend of mine also FOIA requested it, and like they told her the same thing. But the thing about this, which is so problematic, is that members of the Grassroots Alliance were at all 5 listening sessions, and we saw Clayton Muhammad with his camera and tripod video recording these listening sessions, and we even have pictures to show it.
Right,
If
right.
you could bring up the like response that like we got from the city.
Absolutely.
What
Yeah,
she
let me
said.
bring that. Okay, no problem. Let me bring the response letter that you got up. If you could, do you see that, Brandy? If you want to read it back and give a little background with this correspondence.
All right, so this is the first from like the first FOIA request when I requested the additional videos, and she responded. Her name is Sarah. She said that updated message indicated that there were no more, or this might be from the second time, but it says that updated message indicated that there were no more recordings to provide, as only the 2 sessions were recorded and those recordings were provided. And so that's basically that. Now, if you could put up the pictures of
Oh,
the listening
absolutely.
sessions, and where
Absolutely.
we have, where like you can see in this one right here, like you can see the camera, the tripod, and
Yeah.
Clayton Muhammad up in the background. Now, if you
Uh
go to
huh.
the next one, that's me speaking. You see Clayton in back of the camera and
Right.
the tripod right there, and also like you can see Richard Irving right there up in the front row. If
Yeah.
you go to the next one, this is at Impact Church. That is Mrs. Hartburn, and as you can see, there's the tripod and the camera right there. So it's kind of it's kind of mind blowing and baffling
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
city of Aurora would say that there's no more recordings when we basically have pictures of you recording the event, and like that's criminal because it's a FOIA request and you're withholding information from the public. And so this is why we wanted to do our own listening session to be transparent, because if like the city has nothing to hide, then you should let these recordings be readily accessible to the public. Nobody should have to FOIA request this and then you lie about it. And we were there and we saw you recording it and we have pictures to back up our claim.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very suspicious. Very suspicious. So, the listening sessions. What date will these be on, Nicole? What date will this session begin?
December 1st from 6 to 8 p.m. It's going to be held at the Prisco Center in room 103, which is when you go in the front doors, you go to the left and then go around the corner. It's the room right across from the restrooms.
Okay, okay. So, with the community coming to this event, what can they look forward to when they walk in the door? What is it that they can look forward to experiencing at this session?
Well, they can look forward to that. This is a safe space to speak freely. A lot of people did not attend the Aurora listening sessions because they feared retaliation from the APD. And so like a lot of people, they didn't want to come and like they didn't want to participate. And so with our listening session, it's open for everybody except the APD cannot come, and city politicians are not welcome to come. This is strictly
Gotcha.
for the people. So we want the people to come and like to be able to voice their concerns openly and without the fear of retaliation from the city or from the APD.
I feel you. I feel you. And Nicole, how effective do you think a move like this will be in getting folks to come forward and truly express their concerns and issues about the way the city is being run?
Well, I think we have a long road ahead of us to get people comfortable with speaking up because I think there's a variety of reasons of why people don't. One is the fear of retaliation, and people listening at home might be like, "Well, what do you think's going to happen to you?" Well, if you put your face and your name out there, and um, anything you're affiliated with, like me with Culture Stock is a perfect example. We've
Yeah.
spoken out against the city, and I do believe that we have suffered the consequences through uh, blocking blocking access to resources for us, financial resources that
Right.
previously we enjoyed. So I think retaliation is a real fear for people. I think it's a valid fear. And I think that people need to know that there are other people also speaking up, and when we do it collectively, then we have a lot more weight, which is really why the Grassroots Alliance started in the first place. So I hope that this is one step closer towards people feeling more comfortable in speaking out. Um, and I feel like documenting our shared experiences and our individual experiences is very important because the way the city spends it and the way the department spends it, everything's great. Nothing, everything's on the up and up. Nothing is ever done wrong. Everything's great. And
Oh yeah.
so having this documentation of, okay, is the city all bad? Is the police department all bad? No, probably not, but it's not all perfect like you're portraying. And so if we can't have serious accountability for the things that do need fixed, we're never going to get there. We're never going to be the best. We're never going to be a equitable community. And so if people come out, document your stories. Maybe we'll see trends. Maybe we'll see, oh, you had that happen to you. Oh, me too. Like with this FOIA thing. Oh, Brandy, you tried FOIA and things in the city, lied about documents that exist. Oh, Culture Stock had that experience too when we tried to FOIA air quality reports for the building we rented from the city. So I think just supporting each other, whether you're an organization or an individual, is what I believe will come out of this. And but like I said, it's a process. People are still going to feel uncomfortable. We just have to keep showing up and keep reminding people that we're not going away. We do have everybody's back. We do have each other's back, and let's come together to make change in our community.
Beautiful, beautiful. Before we go any longer, we do have a few comments. We have Midlife Mocha says it's great to see people who care about residents being activated to change the community for the better. And Miss Elise says hello to everyone. Good evening. And Casildo, he writes in, thank you for putting that event together, Grassroots Alliance. What's going on, my man? I do want to ask you guys a question. A resident in the community coming to this event, what are some of the first things that they'll learn from being here?
One of the first things they will learn, we have a presentation that will be given by Lily, and they will learn the proper way to contact the alderman, the steps to go through. It's a civic education on how to properly contact your city officials, and hopefully they can respond. That's the main thing. With this listening session, we want to have a series of these. So if this one is successful, then we'll have a part 2 and a part 3. But at the beginning of each one, there will always be a educational aspect to it, because one of the main things that's lacking up in the community is education and like awareness. And so if we can educate the people on how to properly apply pressure to their aldermen, and then like they become aware, and then like more people can do it. So like that's the first step, is educating the people on how to properly contact their aldermen, and also how to get engaged and to stay engaged. That's the main thing.
Got you. Want to ask, you mentioned Lily is going to facilitate the educational part about it. Who is
Right.
she and what does she do?
Nicole?
Yeah.
I'm Matter spokesperson. No,
Well,
I'm probably gonna butcher her biography, but Lily Rocha is very involved in the community. She's kind of behind the scenes, more so. She is one of the Civilian Review Board um, members, the inaugural Civilian Review Board members. She used to work in the office of Representative Barbara Hernandez, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not really sure what else she's up to. She's super smart when it comes to all things like government. And so we're really happy to have her facilitate that. She did do another, because this isn't the first educational thing we've done for the community as Aurora Grassroots Alliance. We did, I think, two others via Zoom, and Lily led one of them. So we have a lot of really great people involved in the Grassroots Alliance, and so we just want to make sure that we're sharing knowledge with the community and getting their perspectives also.
absolutely, absolutely. Okay, shout out to Lily. Appreciate it. I do
She's a
have
freedom fighter.
yeah, yeah. I do have one other question to ask. What outcomes do you guys hope that these types of sessions will have for people who for the community in their need for more civic education? We do know that we want for them to be able to effectively contact their aldermen, local officials, but what is it that you guys can offer or suggest to them that will yield a response better than maybe if they tried it on their own or if they had not attended this session? Either one of you.
Well, I think a lot of people feel apprehensive because I don't know about everyone else, but I know when I went through high school, I really don't recall learning much of anything about local government,
None of us.
how it's run. Yeah, so it's like, okay, where do you start? Okay, you could know that you have all these issues or concerns, but where do you start to address them? How do you navigate this system of government that you really don't know much about how it works? And so we hope that these listening sessions and these educational series help empower the community to feel like they can confidently, you know, engage in the local government and their state government, federal government. Really, I mean, I just really hope that some of that apprehension kind of fades away if they feel like they have a place to go where we'll help answer questions, we'll help guide them through it, we'll help them navigate these systems that they like. I never knew we could sign up for public comment
Okay, okay.
to speak at city council. I didn't know that 5 years ago. And now I sign up all the time. And they
I
probably
heard
wish I
that.
didn't know how to do it. So, so it's that kind of stuff. Like, what ways do you have a voice? What ways can you use a voice, that voice? And then what's the process? Because a lot of people don't know what the process is. So just getting the word out there and helping people understand our local government, because I think understanding helps ease some of that anxiety and really allows people to get engaged in a meaningful way.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, Brandy, I wanted to ask you, now that Mayor Richard Irvin has been elected to his second term, how confident are you compared to his last term he will be in being receptive to the concerns and issues and the voice that the community is trying to have? How well do you think these issues will be received by his administration?
Well, hopefully he can redeem himself from his last term. The first thing is like he's the first black mayor of Aurora, so I don't find any pleasure in constantly bumping heads with him. I don't think it's a good look. But at the same
Absolutely.
time, if you on bullshit, man, you gotta get called out. And the thing is, we will hope he is receptive. When we had the meeting behind closed doors, he was all ears. But in the public, we just hope he is receptive to the concerns of the community. And like one of the main things is we can't keep having these presentations of word salad of, how can I say it? It looks good. The Civilian Review Board looks good. The Change Reform Initiative looks good. The 60 key recommendations looks good. The what you say up in the media looks good. Getting an award for the Civilian Review Board and all that looks good. But the thing is, what's actually happening? Is there real change happening? Is policy changing? Are the things that you say affect the people in the community? You know what I'm saying? So we want him to be receptive. Not only be receptive, but take action on that. Because you can say what you want to say all day, but if the police in Aurora are still treating the people the same way, and if the common person contacts an alderman and the alderman doesn't contact them back for weeks or days or weeks or months, then nothing has changed. So we want his we want his administration to be receptive and accountable, but to also take action. So our listening session is a friendly calling card to the city of Aurora, saying, hey, everything's not fucked up, everything's not bad, but we have some real issues here that need to be dealt with. And like, you can't keep dressing it up. Like, you can't keep having dog shit, make a cupcake from it and put some frosting on it and say that it's good. That's what keeps happening here up in Aurora, from the mayor's office to the alderman's office to the APD. You know, like, nobody finds pleasure in bumping heads with Keith Cross or like the APD. But at the same time, real change needs to happen, and real change does not happen from sugarcoating it, pussyfooting it, putting on a good display about businesses opening and businesses are constantly closing. Real change has to happen here in Aurora. Aurora could be the beacon as one of the best cities in Illinois and throughout the country. But it cannot be that if you constantly have bullshit and you constantly feed the people bullshit. On one hand, you say we're doing great things, but up on the other hand, it's the same grimy ass City Hall. City Hall is fucking grimy. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody, but some people are just grimy. So we want real change, and so far it's been ceramic. You know what I'm saying? It looks nice. It's all good, but what's really happening? For instance, the Civilian Review Board that came out of, I guess, the listening sessions or like the Change Reform Initiative. But ask yourself, the Civilian Review Board has no power to do nothing. And the city council applauded this and congratulated this and said, this is the right step in the right direction. How is it the right step in the right direction when they have no power to change policy? They have no power to do nothing but to review cases that have already been closed. The code hates this analogy, but I have to say it. The Civilian Review Board has the power of this. I go into Walmart, I buy my groceries, I come out with the receipt, I give you the receipt, and then you give me a strong suggestion on what I should have bought. That's the Civilian Review Board, and they claim that this is change. That's not change, that's bullshit. The Civilian Review Board, if you're going to have a Civilian Review Board, it has to have power to make change. It has to have power to change the climate, but that's not that. Also, this, if you look at the APD, when we went to the listening sessions and when we went to the Change Reform Initiative, every time a resident said something about the APD, they were so defensive, so out of tune, so out of step.
Uh-huh.
I remember this. A person asked the president of the police union, I think his name is Lee, they asked him about the code of secrecy up in the police department. This dude leaned up against the wall and said, I've never heard of such a thing. There is no code of secrecy here up in
Get
Aurora.
out.
See,
Wow.
that's that
Wow.
bullshit. When you have the president of the police union saying there's no secrecy, and then you have the APD shielding bad officers like Dave O'Brien, or Dave Bryan, aka O'Brien, who's been on the force since 1995 and is a fucking domestic terrorist, a rogue white boy with a badge, and like his little clique of like gangbangers. They've been terrorizing people since 1995. And he's still under force, and he has complaint after complaint after complaint after complaint after complaint after complaint, and nothing has been done. See, that's that bullshit. That's not transparency. And so that's why we want to have these listening sessions so that people can speak freely and know, hey, it is what it is. Aurora's not all bad, but damn, it's not all good either. And so like we have to bring this to light to let the people know there are people out here fighting for you. There are people out here speaking up, but like the community has to get involved and has to stay engaged. We have to constantly apply pressure. And so back to your question about Richard, we want him to be receptive, but at the same time, man, if it's bullshit, it's bullshit, and we need to clear it up because we don't want another melee that happened in downtown Aurora. But that's always on the edge, and and stuff like that always could happen when people are not heard. Their actions speak for them, and nobody wants that chaos here. Local businesses being burned and
Right.
burglarized,
Right.
vandalized. No, like nobody wants that. But that's the climate across the whole country because nobody is listening. They keep sugarcoating it and saying everything's good, but everything is not good. And I think there needs to be change. And so that's why the listening sessions and the Rural Grassroots Alliance is here to try to initiate that change, to try to tell people get involved and stay involved and constantly apply pressure.
Gotcha. And Nicole, basically the same question with you. I mean, I know you were not a big supporter of Mayor Irvin, and so how confident are you that this second term he's going to be receptive to the concerns and issues that you guys present to him and his administration?
I'm not confident at all for the simple fact that, I mean, just looking at last year alone, when we went through the change reform initiative and they were talking about, oh, it's going to be great, we're going to listen, we're going to do all of these things. And then when it came time to do a presentation to city council about the findings of the change reform initiative, it was like a 180 where Richard was like, oh, change, people got upset, the police department got upset that, change implies that you're doing something wrong, but you guys aren't doing anything wrong. Change is just an acronym. And so what is that? That doesn't give me any confidence. In fact, it made a lot of us who participated in that change reform initiative kind of take a step back and say, why did we bother putting that emotional energy into that? Why did we bother showing up? Why did we bother for it to turn into, no, nothing's wrong here, everything's great, change is just an acronym? And then not that long afterwards, we had our mayor and police chief do a media briefing on an uptick in crime. And in that uptick in crime, the very first things out of his mouth and out of Zeman's mouth were about grassroots organizers and
I remember
where
that.
are
Yeah.
we? And the people who are criticizing the police, well, I've come to the conclusion that they're criminals. So to say things like that about people who just want to be a voice for their own experiences and for the experiences of others and hold our city accountable to a high standard, which we should want that. We should want to have a place where we're holding ourselves to a high standard. So to be called a criminal, I mean, that's just I mean, our chief of police and our mayor are talking about Brandy and I. I'm not saying they were specifically speaking to us only,
Right.
but we are included in that. We're criminals. We are, you know, we are just keyboard warriors. I believe grassroots people were also called. So, you know, I don't have a lot of confidence based on those two things alone. Maybe we as citizens don't understand all of the powers that be beyond behind the scenes in city government of Aurora, right? Maybe there's people in positions of power that we don't know because they have fat pockets. Maybe Richard has had to appease those people and has acted out of character for himself. Only he knows that, right? But in his second term, I think now we're going to find out. Was he just holding his own ground to get his foot in the door to be able to really affect change for the community? Or is he just really going to continue more of the same, pandering to the majority and completely forget the community that he came from? Time will tell. I'm not optimistic.
I feel you.
I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not optimistic.
Yeah, yeah, and truly, I do understand, the suspicion. I mean, he has left the door open for that, and is justifiable. Um, I know that we also have a new police chief, and the new chief, Keith Cross. How confident, given the poor performance, in my opinion, of the previous last police chief, and being able to handle concerns regarding the Aurora Police Department. How confident are you that Keith Cross will be a change agent for the Aurora PD in the near future? Either one of you.
I actually spoke to Keith Cross a couple months ago. I I honestly believe that he has a good heart and that he wants to make change. But I also know a black man in a position of power is not afforded the same liberties or privileges as a white man in position of power. So I hope he will make change. I think he wants to make change, but there's a lot of forces pulling at him. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I hope he hears what the community has to say, and I hope he takes that back to the department and really try to make some change. So I'm hopeful. He's a black man. I want him to be successful, but at the same time, whether you're black or white in that position of authority, you have to hold your officers accountable. And if Keith Cross isn't going to hold his officers accountable, then he's no better than the previous chief. But if he is going to hold his officers accountable, make change, and probably take some heat if he does make change, then hey, like it is what it is. I applaud the man because nobody wants to go to war with the chief of police or the APD, but at the same time, black and Latino people in Aurora are catching hell and have been catching hell for the last 25 years. And so I think with Keith, if there's going to be a move in the right direction to address some of these concerns, I believe that the Aurora Police Department, first, there has to be some atonement and there has to be some accountability. The Aurora Police Department has to admit publicly that they have treated the black and Latino communities unfair for the past 25 years. And if that's not even the first thing out of his mouth, hey, all bets are off because you have to admit that your department has been, some people, not the whole department, but some people in your department have been acting like rogue agents and terrorizing the black and Latino community. That has to be addressed. There has to be some atonement. The APD has to acknowledge that from the top brass all the way down to the goddamn janitor. It has to be acknowledged. And I believe if Keith Cross wants to make amends with the black and Latino community, that's something that's the first step I believe he should take. And I also believe he should clean house. You know what I'm saying? Because you cannot have police officers who are, how can I say this? You can't have police officers who have an implicit bias mind state. who are racist up on your police force and you do nothing about it. You can't have a police department where you have 13 or 14 black officers and they are complaining about discriminatory promotional practices within the department itself. So if the APD won't treat their black officers correctly, how are you treating black and Latino people on the street correctly? Your own house is in conflict. You know what I'm saying? So in order for this to get not resolved, but move up in the right direction, there has to be some atonement and there has to be some acknowledgement. I'm hopeful that Keith Cross will do the right thing. I think he is a good man. I used to talk to him up in the barbershop the whole time. And I joked with him a couple of years ago. I said, Keith, you know, one day, like, you might be the chief of police and, you know, we might be up on the opposite sides of the fence. And he said, hopefully, like, you know, it won't come to that. Well, it's come to that because this is where we are now. But I am hopeful that he will do a good job. I'm hopeful that he will take the concerns of the community very seriously. And I'm hopeful that he will rein in these bad officers and try to make a change here up in Aurora. So I'm hopeful, but we just have to see what happens.
Gotcha. And what about you, Nicole? How hopeful are you that Keith Cross may be a good change agent for the city of Aurora, given the sentiments that the community has about the Aurora Police Department?
Well, I don't really know him enough to say either way about what I think his intentions or his frame of mind is on the issues of social justice and, you know, fixing internal issues within the police department. But what I do know is that he is limited in what he can do because of the police union. So he may want to fire someone. He may want to do this and that. But when you have a police union that can get in the way of that, I mean, I don't know how effective he can be in having to navigate that. So I hope he does, you know, I hope he does affect change. I hope at least he shifts the mindset of, you know, deflectiveness, defensiveness. But I do know that during the listening sessions last year, he was present for at least one of them. And he came up and was making every excuse under the sun for every single complaint that was made. Did he do that because he had to, because he was there representing the police department under Zeman? I don't know. But I do know that I heard him make a lot of excuses. So hopefully now that he is the person in charge, then that will change. So time will tell. Fingers crossed. I don't know. But I mean, like I said, his power is limited with regards to getting rid of people, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Yeah. You know,
can I add one?
Oh, absolutely, Brandy. Go right ahead, man.
I just wanted to add one more thing. Despite having a black mayor and a black police chief, people need to understand something about Aurora and about Aurora's history and about its culture. Aurora is racist as fuck and always has been racist. And so I hope Keith understands this. Does Keith really think that the police union or members up in the police department wanted a black chief? You have authority in leading people who might not even want to call you chief. And when Zeman left, a bunch of officers also left. You know what I'm saying? They didn't leave because like it was time for them to go. They left
I
because
didn't know about
some of
that.
them like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Everybody knows about it, you know what I'm saying? Like you can like find it up on the internet and stuff. But this is the fact. You're over a house that has a climate of being insensitive to the needs of blacks in the community, blacks and Latinos in the community. You're in a house that has been racist towards blacks and Latinos. So if you a black police chief, do you really think some of these white boys under you really want to be there, or like they really respect you as chief, you need to understand something. You're a black man in a position of authority, but you still behind enemy lines, because some of these people who like you have authority over, they don't care. They simply don't care. And if they would treat black people like that up in the police department and you the chief, what do you think they think about you? You know what I'm saying? So like you always have to keep that in mind when you in a system that's built on implicit bias and white supremacy. If you have authority in that system, if you're not going against that system, you will eventually become a part of that system and uphold the traditions and values of that system. So if you're the chief of police and if you're not constantly trying to break up that system, that mindset of white supremacy and implicit bias, you will forever have problems with officers up under you because they think, why should they listen to this nigga? You know what I'm saying? That's the mindset of some of them. So I hope he really understands that I believe, you're a good man and like you have a good heart, but at the same time, you need to understand the mindset of some of the people working under you. If they treat blacks and Latinos and pull us out of the car and call us niggas and faggots and boys and stuff like that, what do you think they think about you? Like, you understand? So like he needs to
I'm
be
sure he knows.
aware
I'm
of.
sure he knows.
I hope he knows, because at that listening session he came up guns blazing. Well, a lot of black people are racist against cops too. What? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is your answer. So I'm saying I believe he has a good heart and like he wants to make change, but he needs to understand the environment that he's in, and any change that he tries to implement is going to come with a lot of blowback.
Yeah, I'm not sure how one can be racist against a profession, but that's a very interesting comment that he made, and I hope that he will do better in this position than Zimmern does. I totally
Let me
understand
say
the
that again.
concerns.
Let me say that again. I don't think he said people are racist against the police department. I think he said there's a lot of black people who are racist against white people also. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, but still in all, I would. Uh, it sounds to me like he means police officers, and because that was the whole purpose of these sessions. I know how he worded it, but
Correct.
I do hope that he is. And I'm with Nicole. I'm sure he's fully aware of the climate, the atmosphere, within that department. He's been a part of this department for many, many, many years. And hopefully, even with those that may not want to respect his position, his new position, if he's on the right foot, if he's trying to do the right thing, those folks will have no choice. And hopefully he'll be strong enough, to execute the proper authority and make some changes. I'm with you guys. We have to wait and see. I understand why, given some of his past comments, the confidence is not fully there. It's completely understandable. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that this evening you have thoroughly enjoyed this broadcast. It's important that we do become more educated concerning our local governments, how they run, who's running them, who's behind who's running them, and get involved. Civic engagement is completely necessary. We can't just be active on the federal level with voting. We have to put in work after the vote. We have to hold our public officials, our police chiefs, all of them accountable. They work for us. We pay their salaries. So that they need to be reminded of that. Nicole, Brandy, thanks again for coming by the Reset and sharing the education sessions that you guys are going to have. And when was that again? Is going to be December 1st at what time?
From
6 to 8 p.m.
8.
At the Prisco.
At the Prisco Center. Did you guys happen to have the address for the Prisco Center at this time, or the telephone number?
No.
Okay, well, if folks do
No, but
want
it's
to,
right on the corner of Lake Street and Illinois Avenue.
All right. And starting with Brandy, if you could, how can folks get in touch with you and learn more about what you do and be of assistance to your causes, brother?
just inbox me on Facebook, Brandy Gilliam, and I'm there to help those who think they need help.
Absolutely, absolutely. And same thing with you, Nicole. How can folks get in touch with you if they need to?
Well, you can reach both Brandy and I by inboxing the Aurora Grassroots Alliance Facebook page. And then if you want to reach out to me regarding culture stock things, my email address is nicole@culturestock.org. And it's stock with a T.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Very enjoyable show, very educational. I hope that regardless of the locality that you live in, you understand that the power is with the people. You just have to learn what tools are available to you to get the ball rolling, and holding these local officials accountable. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Peace.